And this is the Incongruous channel, and I'm Dr. Andy Yates. And today we're going to be talking about a subject not so United Kingdom. This is the second time I've had to do this because I had some weird kind of noise in the background. I've been having all kinds of computer problems, had real problems downloading my podcast to put it out on my website of the show I did on Saturday on Beetroot Radio. And that's the one I'm doing here. I had to miss the last one because there was an outside broadcast, whatever. Not so United Kingdom. Let me just get me a bit of paper here, because as I said, I'm having to do this one again, because when I listened to it, I thought, no, that's just not the quality I want to put out there for you, my listener and viewer. All right, here we go. So what you're going to know about the kingdom, the United Kingdom, is that it is a kingdom. It's a domain of kings. Currently made up of 4 ex-kingdoms, if you like. Kingdom of Wales, Kingdom of Scotland, Kingdom of Ireland, and, of course, the Kingdom of England. And basically, it's interesting when you look at it in history, because it's one family. It's the family, the Norman family that came over and started conquering everything. It's that same family. It's cousins and uncles and aunts and sons and daughters, all fighting over the throne, achieving their aims not through constitutional means or anything like this. Chopping, hashing, killing, beheading, all the way through history, right? Because you know our history, right? To end up where we are now. And that kind of started with Wales, because Wales was conquered by the Normans, who kind of became the English, if you like, back in the 1200s. And, of course, current days, they voted to come out of the European Union. So really, they've kind of put their lot in with England at the moment. But they do have a devolved assembly, like a parliament. And that is getting more and more power as things change, as things move. And so that's pretty good. Because, they are a separate country. They perhaps should have their own right to look after their own stuff. I think that makes sense. Scotland and Ireland are a little bit more complicated, but we'll go through them when I might chop and change and go back again, because there's some relevance there. Let's talk about Ireland next. Okay. Now, of course, Ireland was the island of Ireland. It was a kingdom, the whole thing. Again, the Normans went over there back in the day, and then I think from the 1500s it became a sort of a partner, in a way, a separate kingdom, but attached to the Kingdom of England. And that kind of happened from the 1500s to the 1800s. And because, bless him, good old King Henry VIII decided he was going to be King of Ireland, and that caused all kinds of problems. And then they sort of backed away from him a bit. Chieftains moved in, and it was all brought together at the end of the 18th century. So by the time we hit the year of about 1800, it was all brought together. The Kingdom of Ireland went away, and it became part of the United Kingdom. So at that point, it was the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That was its official title. So we'll come back to Ireland, because we ain't done with it yet. But Scotland. Well, Scotland's got a rich history going back in time, as they all have. And but by 1320, they declared themselves as an independent country. That was the first declaration of independence, I think, perhaps in the world. And that's quite strong, you'd think. And, of course, they're always fighting with the English, and then the French got joined in and that sort of thing. But the same Norman family, just bashing away at each other, their brothers, their cousins, whatever. And then around, at 1707, because previously Elizabeth I had died without an heir, so she was the daughter of King Henry VIII, who set up the Reformation, which changed a lot of things, because a lot of places were Catholic, and their boss was the Pope. And kings don't like that, because they don't like having a boss that's bigger than them. So then, of course, King Henry VIII became head of the Church of England, and then that sort of changed to the Church of Scotland. That became their piece of it. And then King James, I think it was, who was the 6th of Scotland and the 1st of England, who was the next one in line to the throne because Elizabeth I died with no issue, no children. Little dog. I told you about this. Then, of course, he then became king, and that sort of unified Scotland and England. And there were still battles back and forth. This was the Stuart dynasty. And then they ended up basically having a deal, and in 1707, the two were unified. And that was the first time, 1707, when the United Kingdom actually became to exist. But you've still got all these nationalistic issues going on. You've still got people who want to be separatists, who want to have their own country in all three countries, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Okay. And I think that what's happened is the EU, Brexit and all that lot has brought this all up again and really set fire to the whole thing. Because Scotland voted for quite a large majority to stay in the EU, but because they're only 8.5% of the population, the English vote carried it, basically. The Welsh also voted to come out of the EU, as I said, but Northern Ireland voted to stay in by a much smaller majority, but still a positive majority. I think it was about 45 to 55%, something like that. The other thing we're talking about Scotland is that Scotland did have a referendum to decide whether they wanted independence from the UK. And that was back in 2014. Basically, they ended up saying, no, we want to stay in the UK by a significant majority. But of course, now we've got the EU and they're being ripped out of the EU against their will. That has probably changed that percentage, and maybe the separatists will win because the Scottish National Party, who was formed for that very purpose of creating Scotland as an independent nation, is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And we've just seen the resignation of Ruth Davidson, who was the first, who was the leader of the Scottish Conservative Party. And she left for two reasons, it seems to me. She left because, one, she just had a baby and she wanted to concentrate on her family life and her partner and stuff like that. And her partner, funnily enough, happens to be Irish, that is, Southern Irish, Republican of Ireland. Interesting. But anyway, she just said, I'm done. I've had enough. I'll still be an MP, but I'm done with the leadership because I cannot deal with Boris Johnson's plans that we will, as a fallback, go to a no deal. And it's weird because I don't think anybody wants a no deal, or at least publicly they don't. There might be some people who would benefit from a no deal, probably some business thing or offshore accounts or something. Some of those people in government, right, might benefit from this. But I think generally speaking, us, the people, the common people, the great unwashed, the vassals in this game, we ain't going to gain, we're going to lose. So why would you want to do it? Why would you do it? Why would you say it's even a valid proposition? And of course, that's something that's going through now. And I don't want to talk too much about that, but, well, let's do it. I don't want to talk too much about it, but right now, of this moment, they're discussing the stopping no deal, because the bill to take control of the parliamentary agenda was one, and then the bill to stop no deal has won. So now it's being discussed by the House of Lords. The problem is the House of Lords could filibuster it, which means they could just talk and 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 not get the business done. And if that happens by close of business, I think Friday, because Boris Johnson has prorogued Parliament and shut it down for 5 weeks, that bill just falls away. It's gone. And they would have to do it all again, starting on the 14th of October when they come back after this unusually long prorogation, which nobody can say wasn't done to achieve some kind of an aim. Because at the back of Boris Johnson is Dominic Cummings. And Dominic Cummings is one of these super brain geeks. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me calling him that, actually, because I have a great respect for geeks. Because they're totally focused on their mental processes and they don't think of things like people. They don't think of things like consequences. They're given a task and they just go for it, right? And I wonder if he's come up with a plan. And here's a wild plan for you, which we might see. Because one of the thoughts was, oh, well, they're going to use a general election to lever this into position, because nobody wants a general election on the other side, the opposition, because they're so fragmented at the moment. They can't get their heads together. Joe Swinson, leader of the Lib Dems, won't vote for Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn insists that he's got to be the leader of this thing. So now you've just shot it in the foot. You've basically said, well, it'll never work. So certainly right now they don't want to do it. After no deal Brexit, if things go wrong, that might be a good time to have a general election, but it's too late. We've already messed up our whole country, I think. So, do we really want to do that? That's the thing. But the big one is Northern Ireland, because we've got this problem. A lot of MPs say they won't vote for the backstop, because the backstop has this... And you can't blame the EU for it, because they basically want to say, no. The Republic of Ireland is an EU country, and we're going to look after them. Right? And there's a border with Northern Ireland. And at the moment, it's a free border and people just cross back and forth and it's all good and everything like this, just like it's one country. And we don't want to change that. And UK government says, no, we don't want to change it either. But if you need to tax people and put trades on and adjust for different levels of VAT and stuff like this, you've got to have some kind of a stop where you stop a truck, check what's in it, see if everything's been paid, the paperwork's in order and all that kind of thing. You've got to have something. And that's a problem, because in the EU you don't need any of that. So the obvious gorilla in the room type solution is unify Ireland. Problem with that is Northern Ireland is British and Britain is coming out of the EU. And you can't just throw British citizens under the bus. Or could you? Because Northern Ireland's 2% of the population. Significant. That's the amount that actually caused this problem in the first place with the Brexit referendum, 2%. But when you think about it, how many of those 2% are actually unionists, want to stay with the UK, and how many are actually would be okay or actually support republicanism, with the whole island being the island of Ireland and Northern Ireland just being absorbed? Because the EU would be okay with that. They've already said, if Ireland wants to join in, they would become part of the Republic of Ireland, which is in the EU. So they just become part of the EU. No border, no backstop. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, one of the reasons that the Conservative government has never been able to even talk about something like that is because they had to do this deal with the, is it the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, who are unionists. They want to be part of the UK. And they gave the Tory party their majority. But we've had politicians walk, and then Boris has just sacked 21 politicians from the Conservative Party. He no longer has a majority. Now, is that sending a signal that says, well, if he doesn't care about a majority, why should he care about the DUP? And if he doesn't care about the DUP, maybe the reason he's talking to the Taoiseach, the leader of the Republic of Ireland, is to say, hey, how about a deal? And that's what he's going to go to the EU and say, you know what? Because... it gets even worse, because the Good Friday Agreement put together a system of government for Northern Ireland, right? And that government, because of their internal squabbles or whatever, hasn't sat and governed for 2.5 years. So there's no one in government. All right? So what would happen if we had direct rule? In other words, direct rule from England, if you like, or the UK. Direct rule over Northern Ireland. They could say, well, we're the government and we've decided that we're going to merge our government with the Republic of Ireland. And we're going to make it all one. Backstop goes away, drops out of the deal. The deal then would probably pass through Parliament, maybe a tweak or two needed, would probably pass through Parliament. We'd avoid no deal, and we're out of the EU. We've respected the Brexit referendum. What do you think? Isn't that cool? I mean, I'm just shooting it out there. Because the other thing is he goes to the EU and he comes up with some technological solution, but as far as we can tell, that thing has never been seen. It's a mythical beast at the moment. Nobody's seen these technological solutions, if they even exist. So you got to wonder, could that be something they would do? Just cut Ireland off. As I said, you know, and when you consider that the population of Northern Ireland, as I said, is, let's say it's split 50-50. So you've got a million unionists, or perhaps 1 million that can vote. Now it's only 1 million. Well, I say 1 million that can vote. You've got 1 million, but how many of them are voting age or would vote anyway? 50%? So now you've got 500,000. And according to statistics, although the Unionists probably outnumber the Republicans in Northern Ireland right now, from what I hear from the statistics, those numbers are changing. And in fact, Republicans, or Catholics, if you like, outnumber Protestants or Unionists, if you like, already. It's just that the Catholic ones aren't old enough to vote yet, if you see what I mean. So it's all going to change anyway in the future. There we go. So either Boris will come up with a plan with the EU. He either wants no deal, and it's hard to believe that he could want no deal, because he'll never last as Prime Minister if the predictions we've seen are true about the problems that no deal's going to cause. That would be just like committing suicide as far as his Prime Minister and his government's concerned. So maybe this Northern Ireland thing is part of it. And of course, if Northern Ireland gets independence, if you like, what's Scotland going to say? Well, if it's good for them and there's only 2% of them, there's 8.5% of us. In fact, a little bit more now that Northern Ireland's gone. We want that same thing. We want independence as well. And that's why the show is called Not So United Kingdom, because we're not so united, are we? We're not united together. There's cracks appearing all over the place. And I think it's a shame, because I've lived all this life, you can see from my grey hair, quite a long life, in the United Kingdom. I lived for 12 years in Wales, love Wales. I only visited Ireland once because I wasn't allowed to when I was in the military. Northern Ireland, been to Southern Ireland, been to Scotland, going again to Scotland next week actually, to go to Roslin Chapel, because I'm going to refresh my Knights of the Templar show, so you'll be getting that in a couple of weeks. It's not so united, is it? The Not So United Kingdom. Well, I could go on a lot about this. There's all different permutations and stuff. I just thought I'd put that out there. So remember that show, the Not So United Kingdom, the sort of 90-minute version that I did on Beetroot Radio on Saturday, is a podcast. I had a lot of problems uploading it. I've resolved that. I'm hoping this is the second run of this YouTube video, because I had sound problems. Hopefully they're gone this time. I hope there's not too much long. The screen looks nice. I don't know. We'll see. I might just have to put it out with a little bit of beeping in the background or something. Sorry about that. Technology, see? And of course, this is the Incongruous channel. Look for Incongruous. And if you like this, or you're interested in it, or you just think this guy's an idiot, but at least he's trying hard, because I do, and I'm sincere, like, share and subscribe, please. Right down below on the screen. All right. So, as I said, next week's going to be a show on a paranormal and cosmic update. So I'm going to update on some paranormal stuff I've done before. Bring you up to date with dark energy, dark matter, and a new one now called Dark Force. If you haven't heard of that, listen to my show, or at least catch the podcast. All right? And I'll be talking about that, and look forward to something about the Templars in the future. This is the Incongruous channel. I'm Dr. Andy Yates. My pleasure to be here. And please, take care.